Okay, so getting ready for an interview as a special educational needs itinerant teacher. Wow.
Yeah,
It's such a fascinating role.
it is.
You get to be a teacher, a social worker, and an advocate all in one. You'll be working one-on-one with students who, for whatever reason, can't attend a regular school, and you're helping them learn at home.
It's a really special kind of role.
It is. So we're diving deep into RoleCatcher's career and interview guides to get prepped to ace these interviews.
Yeah. It takes a lot of heart and, a very unique skill set.
Yeah?
You're not just teaching academics, you're building relationships, you're adapting to a lot of different environments.
Exactly.
You're really kind of advocating for your students' needs.
It's a lot more than just showing up and giving a lesson.
Yeah.
So let's jump right in. What's the first question they ask?
Can you describe your experience working with students with diverse learning needs?
Okay, so pretty straightforward.
It seems straightforward, but it's a great opportunity to really show off your understanding of all these different learning disabilities
Right,
and how you've actually supported students in the past.
right. You've got to have those examples ready.
Yes, give me an example. Don't just list off a bunch of conditions, bring it to life.
Okay.
So, say you had a student who struggled with dyslexia.
Okay.
Now, for anyone who doesn't know, dyslexia is a learning disorder that makes it tough to decode words.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to read, and every sentence is a jumbled puzzle, right?
Yeah.
You can talk about how you used multisensory techniques, maybe incorporating visual aids, or you did hands-on activities to help that student really engage with the material.
Okay, so you're not just telling them, you're showing them.
Exactly. Show, don't tell. And this is actually where RoleCatcher can really come in and be a game changer.
Oh, okay.
Its AI can analyze the specific job description,
Oh, wow.
identify the common learning needs
Okay.
that are mentioned for that role,
Hmm.
and then you can tailor your answer, right?
Yeah, that's a smart prep strategy.
To directly address those needs.
So, okay, you've nailed it. You got the first question.
Okay.
What comes next? What's that follow-up?
Well, they might dig a little deeper. What specific strategies did you use to address those needs?
Okay.
And here's where you can shine.
Right.
Talk about your assessment methods, your go-to differentiation techniques, how you adapt your teaching style.
So they're really trying to get a sense of, like, your process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To meet that student's individual learning profile.
Okay, you aced that follow-up question.
What's next?
What's next?
All right, they might shift the focus to teamwork, collaboration.
Okay.
So something like, how do you collaborate with other professionals, like speech therapists, occupational therapists, to support your students?
Right, because you're not a bubble.
You're not. You're the hub of the wheel.
Yeah.
You're working with the parents, the school staff, therapists, everybody.
So it's not just about working with the student. It's about being a communicator.
Absolutely. You have to demonstrate that you can build rapport, right?
Yeah.
With this very diverse group of professionals.
Yeah.
Work collaboratively to create this really cohesive support system.
Okay, so how would you approach that question?
Think about your successful collaborations. Think back. What did you do?
Okay.
Maybe you work with a speech therapist to develop a visual communication system for a student who is nonverbal.
Oh.
Or teamed up with a school counselor to help a student who's feeling a little anxious about going back to the classroom.
Right.
You're easing that.
So you're really painting a picture of, like, how you work as part of a team.
Yeah. And again, RoleCatcher can help here.
Oh, okay.
Its database is huge. It's got all sorts of information about collaborative practices in special ed.
So you're doing your research ahead of time.
You are, so you can research those practices and work them right into your answer.
It's like having that cheat sheet.
Exactly. But it's totally legit.
Okay, so we talk about experience, collaboration. What other skills are they looking for?
They're looking for the ability to differentiate instruction.
Okay.
They'll ask you something like, how do you differentiate instruction to meet the needs of your students?
Okay, so you got to be flexible.
You do. One size does not fit all.
Right.
And you got to be comfortable with that.
You might have one student who needs to move around, another one who needs to see things.
Totally. You got to figure out, how do they learn best?
Yeah.
And you got to be comfortable with that.
How do you do that?
Well, that starts with a strong understanding of assessment. How are you doing that?
Right.
Do you use learning inventories?
Yeah.
Observations, conversations with the family, with the student. How do you determine their preferred learning style?
Okay, yeah.
And then how do you take that information and translate that into your teaching strategy?
Right. So you figure that out, and then...
Then you get creative. Share some examples. How'd you adapt your teaching? Maybe you had a kid who was a kinesthetic learner, and you incorporated movement breaks, tactile activities,
Oh, fun.
or visual schedules, for a student with autism who needs to see that structure.
Oh, that's a good example. I'm really starting to see how much goes into this.
It does. And this is another area RoleCatcher can help with.
Mhm.
It can help you find real examples of successful differentiation
Okay.
from other teachers, what's working.
So you're seeing what's working, you're getting inspired.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about experience, collaboration, differentiating your approach.
Yep.
Now, this might not seem immediately relevant, but inclusion.
Yeah, you think, well, they're not in a classroom, right?
They're at home.
But a really common question is, how do you ensure that students with special educational needs are included in the classroom community?
Right, because it's not just about being physically present.
It's not. It's about belonging,
Yeah.
fostering that connection.
So how do you create that when they're at home one-on-one?
Get creative. Are you using video conferencing to do virtual classroom visits?
Oh, okay.
Help them create projects they can share with their peers?
Yeah.
Do you encourage pen pals? Online interaction. You've got to be proactive.
So they're still part of the school,
Exactly.
even if they're not physically there.
Yeah.
I bet RoleCatcher can help here, too.
Of course it can. You can research best practices for inclusion, right?
Okay.
And tailor your answer to that specific school or district's policies.
So it's like personalized research.
It is.
All right, we talked about fostering inclusion. But let's be real. The goal is sometimes to get them back into the classroom.
Absolutely. They're going to ask you about that transition.
Okay.
How would you work with the school and the other teachers to create a really welcoming, supportive environment when that student returns?
Okay.
So you're kind of paving the way for them to re-enter.
Right.
So how do you approach that? Focus on collaboration, advocate for the student's needs.
Yeah.
Would you meet with the school staff ahead of time? Talk about the kids' strengths and challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Would you create social stories to help them visualize what the classroom will look like?
Oh, I like that.
Meet the classmates. Would you provide ongoing support and coaching to the teacher?
Right, so you're the bridge between the two.
You are the bridge.
Making sure everyone is on the same page.
Exactly. You're minimizing stress, maximizing their chances to thrive in the classroom.
And I wouldn't be surprised if RoleCatcher had something about this, too.
You know it. You can actually research what that school's policy is
Oh.
on inclusion and reintegration.
Okay.
And you can tailor your answer to that, show that you've done your homework.
I like it. Okay, we've covered a lot. But I want to hit on something that trips people up.
Oh, tell us about a time when questions.
Yes.
Situational questions, yeah.
How do you prep for that? Because you don't know what they're going to ask.
You don't. But a really common one in this field is, can you describe a time when you had to adapt your teaching methods to meet the needs of a student? They want to see you in action. So pick a story.
Yeah.
It needs to showcase your problem solving,
Okay.
adaptability, your ability to learn from your experiences.
Okay.
Don't just focus on the problem.
Right. What else?
Focus on what you did to address that challenge,
Okay.
the resources you used, and most importantly, what was the outcome?
What happened? Did it work?
Yeah. Did it lead to positive change? Did they understand the concept better?
Okay.
Did they overcome an obstacle? Those details matter.
Okay.
It's how you're going to make your answer memorable, and you're going to show them your impact.
You're proving it, not just saying it.
Exactly. RoleCatcher's got this interview question repository. It's amazing.
Okay.
So many examples from other special educational needs itinerant teachers. You can check it out, and it can help you adapt.
You get to see what works.
Exactly. Okay, let's shift gears.
Okay.
Let's talk about assessment.
Okay. This is a question you're going to get. How do you monitor and assess student progress?
Okay, so this is more like data.
It is. Remember, you're not just teaching. You're tracking progress.
Right.
You're making sure what you're doing is working.
So it's about being data-driven, but I'm guessing it's a little more nuanced than that.
It is. You have to be able to explain your assessment methods clearly, and you want to talk about your tools, right?
Yeah.
Formal and informal.
Okay.
And how do you collect and analyze data to inform your teaching?
How do you make that stand out? What do you recommend?
Well, instead of just saying, I use this, I use that, share an example of how you use data to make a difference.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so maybe you noticed a pattern in a student's errors, and that made you adjust your teaching, and then they improved.
So you're showing that you're actually using the data.
Yes. To get results, you're not just collecting it, and I'm sure there's a follow-up.
Oh, I bet.
Right. What tools or methods do you use to communicate student progress to the parents and the school? Oh, yeah, communication.
Communication is key.
Hmm.
You want to emphasize your ability to communicate effectively to all those different audiences.
Right.
Parents, administrators, other team members.
How do you do that? How do you suggest someone approach that question?
Well, think about how you tailor your communication to the specific needs of whoever you're talking to.
Okay.
Do you use visual aids, graphs?
Yeah, to make it easier to understand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you provide written reports, schedule meetings? You want to find the right strategies for everybody.
You got to stay organized.
You do. And again, RoleCatcher can help.
Yeah.
Research those assessment tools,
Okay.
the methods that are commonly used,
Mm-hmm.
and then highlight the ones that match that job description.
Right. You're showing that you're the perfect fit.
You are.
Okay. We're doing good. Let's do another one that can throw people off.
Oh, the challenging situation question.
Yes.
Can you describe a challenging situation you faced with a student? Everyone has them, right?
Yeah.
It's how you handle it. That matters.
Right. So how do you pick a good example?
Pick one that really tested your problem-solving skills
Okay.
and your ability to stay calm
Right.
under pressure.
Yeah.
Maybe you had a student with some serious behavioral issues.
Oh, okay.
How'd you approach that? Did you develop a behavior intervention plan?
Okay.
Did you collaborate with the family?
So it's showing them that you can navigate those tricky situations.
Yes. And when you talk about how you overcame it, focus on the steps you took, the resources you used, and what was the impact.
So you're showing them you can make a difference.
Yes, even when things get tough.
Okay.
Again, RoleCatcher is super helpful here.
Really?
They have an interview practice tool.
Okay.
You can record yourself.
Oh, cool.
And then the AI analyzes your video and gives you feedback.
Wait, the AI watches your video.
It does. It'll tell you about your tone, your pacing, your clarity, even your body language.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Like having a coach.
Exactly. It can pick up on those little cues like, are you fidgeting? Are you making eye contact?
Right. Stuff you might not even notice you're doing.
You don't. And that can make or break an interview.
It's like a secret weapon.
It is. Okay, we've talked about challenges. Let's go back to equity, okay?
Okay.
This is core to special ed.
Yeah.
And they're going to ask, how do you ensure that students with special needs have access to the same opportunities as their peers?
Okay, so it's that leveling the playing field.
It is. You want to demonstrate your commitment to fairness, your ability to advocate.
How do you show that in your answer?
We'll give specific examples.
Okay.
How did you go the extra mile?
Yeah.
Maybe you modified an assignment to make it accessible,
Okay.
for a student with a disability, or you worked with the school to get them assistive technology.
Okay.
For a student with visual impairment, you're showing them you're not afraid to fight for what your students need.
Right.
And RoleCatcher is great here.
Yeah.
Research the legal and ethical frameworks. Oh, okay.
Regarding equal opportunities.
Right.
Right. And then you can work that right into your answer. You understand the bigger picture.
It's all about tailoring those answers.
Yeah.
Showing them you know what's up. Okay, last question.
Last one.
One that often trips people up, it's the transitions.
Yeah.
Right? Big part of any student's journey.
It is. And
Yeah.
it can be really hard for students with special needs. So they often ask something like, how do you support your students during these transitions, like going from primary school to secondary school?
Right. That's a big jump.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a big shift. So how do you help them do that successfully?
Right.
Well, think about it emotionally and academically. How do you prepare them for what's coming?
Okay.
Do you use social stories, visual schedules
Yeah.
to show them what to expect? Do you role play?
Oh, smart.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you work with the families?
Right.
You're giving them the tools and strategies they need to feel confident.
Yeah.
And you're also giving them that emotional support because it can be stressful.
Right.
And the interviewer might also ask about, what specific steps would you take
Oh,
to prepare them and their families? You're going to highlight your collaborative approach.
okay.
Show them you understand. This is about the whole family,
Yeah.
not just the student.
So it's all about that communication and collaboration.
It is.
And I bet you're going to tell me RoleCatcher can help here too.
Well, before your interview, spend some time researching common challenges and support strategies for those transitions.
Okay.
And then you can tailor your answer
Oh, of course.
to that specific age group.
It makes sense. Okay, I feel like we've hit every single question.
I think we got a good overview of the most common ones, but every interview is different, right?
Right.
The key is be prepared, be yourself, and let that passion shine through.
That's a good point because this is a job that really requires passion.
It does. You're not just a teacher. You're an advocate. You're a counselor, a problem solver.
Right.
You're a vital part of their support system. It takes a lot of dedication, a lot of heart.
It does, and you want to get that across in your interview,
Mhm.
you know? Passion's contagious, and they're drawn to that.
So how do you show that without being, like, cheesy?
Be authentic.
Yeah.
Talk about why you're doing this. What drew you to this?
Yeah.
Was there a student who inspired you? Was it personal experience?
Right.
Connect it to your experiences. Let your genuine enthusiasm come through.
Show them you're not just qualified, you're passionate.
Exactly. Let a little personality shine through, too.
I like that. So we've talked about the heart of this role.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get practical for a second.
Okay.
Career advancement.
Yes.
What are the paths? What could someone do?
A master's degree, right? A master's in special ed is fantastic.
Okay.
Opens doors, leadership positions,
Okay.
special ed director,
So long term.
long term. But even before then, certifications are really helpful.
Okay.
A special ed certification is pretty standard.
Okay.
Shows you've got the knowledge
Yeah.
and the skills to work with those diverse learners.
And then you need a teaching license.
You do, generally.
What other certifications would be good to have?
First aid and CPR are always a good idea.
Okay. That makes sense.
Especially when you're working with students who might have medical needs.
Right. Yeah.
And a behavior intervention certification can be really helpful.
Yeah.
If you're working with students who have some challenging behaviors,
That makes sense.
it shows commitment
Yeah.
to professional development.
Shows you're prepared.
Yes,
Okay. So we've covered interview questions. We've got some career insights.
we have.
But we can't leave without talking about RoleCatcher and its AI powers. How can this help candidates prepare, start to finish?
I love this tool.
It's like your coach.
It is. It starts with your CV.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher analyzes job descriptions, pinpoints those skills that employer is looking for.
Okay, so it's like a checklist.
It is. It even compares your CV to that job description and tells you what's missing. Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's like a highlighter.
Right. Highlighting those key things.
Exactly. And then once you've submitted your application, they have this interview practice tool.
Oh, okay.
I love this. It's AI powered.
Okay.
You record yourself answering these questions.
Okay.
The AI analyzes your video, gives you feedback.
The AI analyzes your video.
It does. Tone, pacing, clarity, body language.
No way. It picks up on body language.
It does.
It's amazing.
Things like, are you fidgeting? Are you making eye contact?
Right.
Which you might not even know.
That's a game changer.
It is. So you can polish those subtle but crucial aspects of your presentation.
RoleCatcher is a must for these interviews.
It's a personalized toolkit
Yeah.
to help you showcase your skills, tailor that application, practice. And a lot of it's free, so there's no reason not to try it.
Okay, so we've talked interview questions, career insights, RoleCatcher.
Yeah.
But I want to take a second to acknowledge the huge impact these teachers have.
They do. It's incredibly rewarding.
It's more than a job, right? It's a calling.
Yeah, you're really shaping lives.
You are. You're part of their support system.
So to everyone out there starting out on this journey, we commend you.
You're making a difference.
Yes.
And remember, you're not just teaching, you're empowering, you're advocating.
Right.
You're inspiring.
Yeah, you're making a difference.
Now, before we go on to part 2, let's leave our listeners with something to think about.
Okay.
We talked about the present and future of this career,
Mm-hmm.
but let's look even bigger. As technology keeps evolving, how might this role change in the future?
Right.
How can you stay ahead of the curve and embrace those changes to benefit your students?
Oh, that's a good one. We'll explore it in part 2, so stay tuned.
Yes.
All right.
So we were just talking about the future of education, how technology might impact the role of a special educational needs itinerant teacher. It's a really exciting time to be in this field,
I agree. There's so much potential for innovation. I'm curious to hear what you're seeing, especially when it comes to technology and special ed.
Well, one of the biggest things is assistive technology, right?
Okay.
And how we can use that to really personalize learning
Yeah, that makes sense.
for these students with disabilities. So, it could be anything from text-to-speech software for kids with dyslexia to communication apps for nonverbal students to even virtual reality,
Well, wow.
creating these immersive learning experiences.
So these tools are really opening up possibilities that might not have been there before.
Absolutely. And as a teacher, being knowledgeable about these technologies and knowing how to use them in your teaching,
Yeah.
that's going to put you ahead.
It's not just knowing the traditional methods, it's staying up to date.
Right. It ties back to what we were talking about, with professional development.
Yeah, you got to be a lifelong learner.
You do. You've got to be constantly searching out new knowledge and skills to be the best for your students.
And I bet RoleCatcher can even help with that.
Of course it can.
Can it help identify professional development opportunities?
It can, and you can tailor it to your students' needs.
Oh, that's amazing. So it's like a personalized advisor.
It is. So what other advice would you give someone just starting out?
Yeah. What are your top tips?
Build those strong relationships with the families.
Oh, of course.
Remember, you're not just working with the student.
Right. It's the whole support system.
You're working with the whole family. Especially when you're going into their homes, you're becoming like an extension of their family.
That's true.
Building that trust is key.
Yeah, absolutely.
They need to know you're there for their kid. You're committed to working together. How do you build those relationships? Communication is key.
Okay.
You've got to reach out to them, update them,
Yeah.
Address any concerns they have, be a good listener.
So it's about creating that partnership
Yes, exactly. Working together.
towards that same goal.
Exactly. And remember, every family is different.
Oh, that's a good point.
What works for one might not work for another. Be flexible.
Yeah, you got to adapt.
You do, to their needs and preferences.
Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, let's get back to something we talked about earlier.
Right.
Differentiating your approach.
Yes.
How do you actually do that in practice when you've got all these different needs?
It can be a challenge, but one thing that's becoming really popular is universal design for learning.
I've heard of UDL, but
Yeah.
explain it. What is that?
It's a framework. It's for creating these learning experiences that are accessible
Yeah.
and engaging for every student,
Yeah.
Doesn't matter their abilities or disabilities,
So it's really about recognizing those differences and adapting
Yeah,
to those differences.
exactly. It's not just about accommodating disabilities. It's about creating a better learning experience for everyone.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, so how does it actually work?
Yeah.
What does it look like in, say, a home setting?
So it's based on 3 core principles: multiple means of representation, multiple means of action and expression, and multiple means of engagement.
Okay, that's a lot. Let's break it down.
All right, so multiple means of representation, that just means you're presenting information in different ways.
Okay, so not just textbook, lecture.
No. Use videos, audio recordings, graphics, hands-on activities,
So giving them options.
options to find what makes sense to them.
Okay.
Then there's multiple means of action and expression. That's about giving them different ways to show what they've learned.
Okay.
So it could be writing, speaking, drawing, building,
Okay.
making a video, whatever works for them.
Right, so there's not just one right way to show, the material.
No. And then finally, there's multiple means of engagement.
Okay.
This is about finding what interests them.
Right, yeah.
Their motivations to keep them excited about learning. So think games, technology, real-world stuff.
Make it relevant.
Make it relevant, exactly.
Yeah. So UDL really is about personalization,
It is. It really is.
making it work for each student. I love that.
And it's great for these teachers, right?
Yeah.
Because it gives you that flexibility. You can create those adaptive learning environments that meet those diverse needs.
It's seeing the possibilities, not just the limitations.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay. So we've talked about UDL. Any other insights for someone considering this career path?
Well, it's important to remember this job isn't easy.
Yeah.
There are going to be challenges.
Yeah.
You're going to see students who are struggling, academically, emotionally, socially.
It's tough.
You're going to be working with families, and it can be complex.
Yeah.
Advocating for your students, navigating systems, and adapting your teaching all the time. It's a lot.
It's not for the faint of heart.
No.
Huh.
But it's also incredibly rewarding.
I bet.
When you see that kid who's been struggling and they finally get it,
It's got to be amazing.
Or when you help a family through a transition, or, when you fight for a student and you see them get what they need. That's what makes it worth it.
It's about making a difference.
Right.
It's a privilege to be part of that.
Yeah, I can see why people are drawn to this field. It's passion, purpose,
It is.
and you get to make a real impact.
You do.
It sounds really fulfilling.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest takeaway here is if you have a passion for this,
Yes.
if you're committed to creating those inclusive environments,
Yes.
if you're ready for those challenges,
Yeah.
then a career as a special educational needs itinerant teacher might be for you.
It might be. And remember, you're not alone. RoleCatcher is there for you.
Every step of the way.
It can help you achieve your goals.
It's like your mentor, your coach.
And your cheerleader. And
Yeah.
it's accessible, so give it a try.
Okay, well, that wraps up part 2 of our deep dive.
Okay.
Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll leave you with some final thoughts and some inspiration. Welcome back to part 3 of our deep dive into the world of special educational needs itinerant teachers.
It's been a great conversation. We've
Yeah.
covered so much. Interview prep to trends in special ed. You know what we haven't really talked about?
What's that?
Self-care.
Oh, that's so important,
It is.
especially in a field like this.
It is. It's so demanding,
Yeah,
emotionally challenging.
it's true. You get so caught up in the day-to-day, it's easy to forget to take care of yourself.
It is. And if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be able to be there for those kids.
That's true. So, any strategies? How do you maintain that balance?
Well, I think boundaries are key.
Okay.
It's really easy to let work take over your life,
Yeah, especially when you're in their homes.
especially you're bringing your work home.
Yeah.
So set those boundaries
Yeah.
between work time and personal time.
Yeah.
Make time for yourself.
Okay.
Relax, recharge.
Do the things you enjoy.
Do the things you enjoy.
Read a book, take a walk.
Anything that helps you de-stress. And don't be afraid to say no.
That's a good point.
It's okay to turn down those extra responsibilities or requests if you're feeling overwhelmed.
It's about prioritizing yourself so you can be the best for them.
Yes, exactly. And don't forget to seek support when you need it.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Don't be afraid to talk to colleagues, mentors, maybe even a mental health professional.
Right, if you're feeling burned out, stressed.
Yeah, it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength to ask for help.
Exactly. And remember, you're not alone.
No, you're not.
There are other people who understand what this is like.
Lots of educators who understand.
Yeah. And that sense of community is so important.
It is. Connect with other people
Yeah.
who share your passion.
Yeah.
You can learn from each other. You can support each other. You can celebrate together.
I love that. We're in this together.
We are. And speaking of being together, let's talk about collaboration.
Yeah. So important. We touched on this a little bit.
We did. But you can't overstate it, really. As a special educational needs itinerant teacher, you're not working by yourself. You're part of a team.
Exactly. And that includes parents,
Parents,
school staff.
school staff, therapists.
Yeah. Everyone who's involved in that student's success.
Everyone. So you got to build those relationships, communicate well, and work together to create a good learning experience for the student.
And RoleCatcher can help with that too.
Of course. You can research those best practices, right? Tailor your approach to that specific team.
It's like a virtual collaboration coach. Okay, let's not forget all the ways RoleCatcher can support this journey.
Yes.
I mean, from the CV, resume building, to the interview prep, personalized guidance, it's an amazing tool
It is.
for anyone in this field.
Like a personal career assistant, right?
Yeah.
A mentor, a cheerleader, all in one. And it's accessible, so give it a shot.
Okay, we've come to the end of our deep dive. I want to leave our listeners with one last thought. This world is constantly evolving. New research, new tech, new approaches. So it's more important than ever to be a lifelong learner.
To stay curious,
Yeah.
to stay informed, to keep looking for new ways to grow and get better, and never forget the difference you're making.
That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about. Empowering these kids, fostering inclusion, creating a world where everyone can thrive.
It's a mission worth pursuing. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful,
I hope so.
inspiring,
Inspiring. Yeah.
empowering. And remember, you have the power to make a difference. Go out there and change the world one student at a time.
You got this.
Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.